This book is one of the oldest Korean history books that tells us about how the world began at first. Then it shows how people spread all over the world. It's going to be interesting to find similarities with the Genesis of Christian Bible. It says that we all brothers and sisters, no matter what color we are, because we came from the same ancestors.
Chapter 1. There was Mugo, the first mother of all human beings in the Mugo castle, which was higher than any other places on earth. She inherited the previous world by embracing Chinbu. Mugo came from the previous world. Mugo had no emotion of joy or anger. She got pregnant without a spouse and gave birth to 2 heavenly daughters, Gung-hee and So-hee. In the same way, Gung-hee gave birth to 2 heavenly sons, Wen-gung, Cheon-gung, and 2 heavenly daughters. So-hee also gave birth to 2 heavenly sons, Baek-so, Hyuk-so, and 2 heavenly daughters. So there were 4 heavenly grandsons and 4 heavenly granddaughters of Mugo at that time. The 4 heavenly grandsons of Mugo were Wen-gung, Baek-so, Cheon-gung, and Hyuk-so in the birth order, and they were placed in each 4 direction in the Mugo castle. Then, they began to prepare to play the flute. Chapter 2. In the previous world, the Mugo castle was placed with Hyodao castle side by side over Sildao castle. There was nothing but sunlights and wave energy in the world. Everything including Mugo castle, Hyodao castle, and Sildao castle was created by the wave energy. Creating a new world means the start of a new Jimsei. Before the Jimsei started, the wave energy had created planets. When the previous Jimsei ended, Mugo gave a birth to 2 daughters. Mugo let her 2 daughters, Gung-hee, So-hee, take care of Chiljo. There was milk flowing on the ground in the Mugo castle. Gung-hee, So-hee, and their 4 heavenly sons and 4 heavenly daughters drank the milk as a food to live. The 4 heavenly daughters took care of Hyo, and the 4 heavenly sons took care of Yor, which of both were also needed to create the world. Chapter 3. It was a time for a new world to start. So, the wave energies started preparing to create a new world. Mugo pulled the Sildao castle and dropped that into Cheonsu. Then the protective layer began to cover the whole earth. And then lands began to show up on the watery surface of the primitive earth. The primitive earth was forming the earth, which was similar to the current one by experiencing repetitive diastrophism over time. Also, the earth was becoming ready for its calendar system by initiating its rotation. The most important fundamental elements, Ki, Wa, Su, to work together to separate day from night and make 4 seasons and created and raised animals, plants, and many other beings on earth. Each heavenly son took each fundamental element. Wang and Cheong-hu took 2, and Su respectively built a place called Gung to do their jobs in creating a new world. Baek and Hyuk-hu took Ki and Wa respectively constructed So, a place where they worked to create a new world. This was how the heavenly sons got their names. Ki and Wa got rid of the cold in the air and Su in to stabilize the land. This was possible because Yim sang in the sky and Hyang sang on land worked together. Chapter 4. The 8 heavenly sons and heavenly daughters were involved in creating a new world. But their work was not perfect yet. For example, it wasn't their plan, but some beings disappeared soon after they were created. Each heavenly son took one of the heavenly daughters as their wife and gave a birth to 3 sons and 3 daughters. So each of the 4 couples had 6 children to make it 24 children in total, who became the first human beings on Earth. Over time, as the population grew, the number of descendants of each couple reached 3,120 people in total. The first 12 couple ancestors of human beings began to guard each of the 12 entrances of the Mugo castle, and their descendants began to take care of the creatures on Earth. Consequently, everything finally became stable, including the Earth time. The milk that came out of the ground was the only food for the people in the Mugo castle. People could keep themselves innocent by only drinking the milk. There was no trouble among people. It was like an ideal place for people to live together peacefully. They had a okim in their ears, a hearing organ that people nowadays don't have anymore. They could hear the celestial sounds with them. They could also move a lot faster than the people nowadays by taking a flying leap. When they died, their flesh turned into dust. But their spirit stayed alive forever and could still talk to the living people without any sound, as well as being able to move anywhere. Chapter 5. Jisoshi from Baek, Soshi clan went to the milk spring to drink the milk with several other people together. But there was a long line of people waiting. When it became his turn, Jisoshi gave up his turn in favor of others for 5 times. Jisoshi just ended up not drinking the milk and had to go back to his place. Jisoo heard auditory hallucinations and felt dizzy from being so hungry that he lied on the floor of his place. Then Jisoo found a grapevine growing, which was the railing for his place. So Jisoo ate the grapes. Jisoo was shocked by the strong tastes of the grapes. Jisoo jumped out of his place and started to walk singing, "Oh my world! I feel much stronger now because of the grapes I just ate." People didn't try to believe what Jisoo said at first, but they gradually became curious about grapes. Then some of them ate grapes at last, and the same thing happened to them as Jisoo claimed. So more and more people began to eat grapes. Chapter 6. People from Beck. So she were shocked by the incident that some of them ate grapes, which were not supposed to be eaten. So they punished them by taking away their right to take care of creatures from them. That was the time when their voluntary regulations were gone forever. As a result, the regulation that forbade people from eating fruits, or banned them from taking care of creatures, was enforced upon the people of Beck, so for the first time in human history. In response, Muggle closed all the doors of Muggle Castle and stopped the protective film in the sky. People who ate the fruit began to have their teeth and their saliva, which became as poisonous as snakes. This was because they swallowed lives of others. People who kept eating grapes also began to have good eyes like owls, because they personally used their right that was supposed to take care of creatures. This way, they polluted their bodies and minds and eventually lost their heavenly personalities. They couldn't hear the heavenly voice anymore ever since the hearing organ Okim turned into Tosa, the sand of the moon. Also, they couldn't take a flight or leap anymore. Because their body was polluted, they began to give birth to deformed babies. Their polluted bodies shortened their lifespan. After they died, their bodies just rotted and turned into dirt, and their spirit couldn't communicate with other people anymore. Chapter 7. Accordingly, Jisoo got all the blames from others for what happened. So Jisoo felt embarrassed and took all the people in his group out of the Muggle Castle and went away to hide from them. Also, the people who were disallowed to take care of creatures as a punishment for eating grapes left the Muggle Castle and scattered all over the place on Earth. Wengung felt sorry for the leaving people and said, "I understand that you got to leave this castle because you changed, but make sure that you try your best to find yourself and come back as key and to face each other." The 4-season system didn't work properly. Now that only one side of the Earth got appropriate sunlight, the other side became dark and cold. As Su and Wa didn't work properly, creatures began to hate each other. With all the doors to the Muggle Castle closed, and the lack of sunlights, they couldn't hear the celestial sounds anymore. Chapter 8. Some of the people who left the Muggle Castle regretted for their decision. So they went back to the Muggle Castle. But they didn't know that they were not ready yet. When they made holes in the wall of the Muggle Castle to reach the milk in there, the milk poured out of the castle and became solid.